Now that you understand what a short sale is, the rest of the steps are pretty simple. So let's talk about step one, finding short sales. Generally speaking, there are two ways to do this. Number one is you can do it manually, and then you can do it automatically. The manual method is to simply call your courthouse, find out from your county courthouse how they record or post information about pre-foreclosures. Now, when the lender starts the foreclosure process, it's memorialized by them recording either a notice of default, an NOD, or a lis pendens. That stands for litigation pending. That means they're starting the lawsuit to take the house back. Now, notice of defaults are recorded in what we call non-judicial foreclosure states, and lis pendens are recorded in the formal lawsuit where the lender is taking the house back in what we call judicial foreclosure states. And you can simply Google to find out if you're in a judicial or a non-judicial foreclosure state. The main difference between a judicial and a non-judicial foreclosure is how long it takes for the lender to foreclose on the property. In a non-judicial foreclosure, the lender can take the property back relatively quickly, as quick as anywhere from about 4 months on up to 8 months. In a judicial foreclosure, the lender has to go through the court system. So they have to literally file a lawsuit, go through the court system, and get awarded the house through that foreclosure sale. And that can take as quick as we've seen about 8 months, and it can take as long as 2 to even 3 years. If you call your county courthouse and you simply ask them, where do you record pre-foreclosures and what is the document that's recorded, they're either going to tell you it's a notice of default or a lis pendens. Now, if you know how to find those, then you will know in that particular county who's delinquent on their loans to the extent that the lenders are starting the foreclosure process. In addition, if you want to buy a list of pre-foreclosures, you can find them generally online just by simply Googling pre-foreclosures in blank county. And when you start getting short sales closed, the word will spread to other distressed property owners because friends talk. Many agents don't ever have to go looking for pre-foreclosures because once they've kind of fortified their position as a short sale specialist, the listings come to them. Now, once you find a prospective short sale lead and you want to turn it into a listing, this is what we call the power conversion conversation. These are the 5 points you want to communicate. They're pretty simple, but what they represent are the only 5 outcomes in that borrower's future. So once you have this conversation with them, it leads them naturally and logically that if they want to better themselves and make the best long-term choice for them, that the short sale listing with you is going to be their best option. So these are the 5 outcomes for that distressed borrower or that seller. Number 1 is they can do nothing. They can throw their hands up, let the bank take their house. They have a foreclosure on their record, and that's long-term pain. They have nothing to gain by letting the bank take their house. There are just too many other options. Option 2 is a loan modification or a workout. Here's the problem with the loan modification is number 1, a lot of sellers don't qualify for a loan modification and the bank won't do one. And then even if they do, a lot of those borrowers will default again because the loan modification doesn't make enough of a big impact on their monthly payments to make it affordable for that borrower to continue making those payments on time. So a lot of times they'll default again. In fact, if you go back to the 2008 financial crisis, during that recession, you had a lot of loan modifications being done on homes, and the majority, in fact, of those borrowers defaulted again. So that leaves them in a position where they either have to hire an attorney or they're going to have to do a short sale. So options 3 and 4 is hiring an attorney. 1 is to hire an attorney for foreclosure defense. That puts the foreclosure sale on an elevator. It just delays the inevitable, but at some point, after they spend hundreds and thousands of dollars to an attorney, they're still going to have to inevitably face that foreclosure. The other reason they may call an attorney is to file a bankruptcy where they discharge that debt. If they do that, that's obviously going to discharge the debt, get rid of that payment, but it puts them in a world of hurt because long term, they're not doing the best thing for them to get loan ready again to buy another house if that's important to them. And that brings us to the best long-term decision for that seller is a short sale. But again, time is of the essence because the longer they delay, the harder it's going to be to get that short sale done because we're racing the foreclosure clock. And then also the lenders, if they try to stall for a very long time, the lenders will be less open to settling short of what's owed and to help them avoid that foreclosure. And the final point to remember is that you're not giving legal advice, you're not an attorney, in most cases realtors aren't, and you're not giving tax advice. So always refer them to a tax professional and their legal counsel to make these kinds of decisions. And once you have a prospective short sale listing, whether that's somebody who contacted you or somebody that you marketed and you're following up with, then you want to make sure they're qualified and that you can get this to the closing table. Now, as a side note, this is an important takeaway when it comes to marketing for short sales, is that the fortune is in the follow-up, more so with short sales than any other type of lead. Here's why. A lot of these borrowers are going to be hopeful that they can work something out with the lender. Now, if they're able to do that and then they default again in the future, they may come back to you. Or if they find out they don't qualify for that loan modification, then that hope is gone. They have to default to one of those other options, and they'll think of you as a short sale option. But you want to make sure that you're not wasting their time or your time. Warren Buffett has a saying, the difference between successful people and really successful people is really successful people say no to almost everything. So qualify, qualify, qualify. I know you've heard that before. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but specifically with short sales because the process is longer than a traditional listing. And the best way to qualify them is to ask what we call the knockout questions.